Oh, look! A box. I wonder what is in it. It must be some goodies. Oh my god.
Alright, if we take a closer look at my box here, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up. And you can see that the motor starts spinning and the buzzer starts beeping. I'm gonna take my remote here, click the stop button, and it'll deactivate here so that I can walk through it. If you notice, the motor and buzzer alternate in 1 second intervals for when it's buzzing. When the buzzer's on, the motor's off, and then a second later it switches to the motor being on and the buzzer off. As you saw, I was using the IR remote here for activation and deactivation. If I go ahead and reset it here, close the box lid back up and click the power button, that's my activate, and then when I open it here, it will start to work again. And my device for checking when the box is open and closed are these this IR sensor right here and an IR LED. This one's just plugged into power, and this one has power and signal wire. This sensor looks for a 10-degree cone of IR light coming out of this LED here, and when it goes out of that 10-degree window, it is triggered, and then the code knows that the box has been opened. For the motor here, just a simple wiring setup. Just use what was given to us in the class documentation, and same with the buzzer here. Use the active buzzer for this. Just set up how we had done for previous activities in the class. And for the IR remote, I stuck it through the side of the box here so that it would just be a little bit less finicky to get the IR signal coming in. Alright, we're going to take a look at my presentation for the Porch Pirate project. If we start here with the code flowchart, you can see that there's just some basic setup and initialization to start with, and then I have this starting in my loop here, this time function which counts back and forth this tick variable on and off every second. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. And then the next thing that I move on to is the IR remote, which is what I use for activating and deactivating the box. We'll go this way. If the code is 71, which is the stop button on the remote, then the box is deactivated. The motor and buzzer, which are my deterrent, stop, and the box then needs to be reset to work again. If you click the reset button, go back up to the start, you can restart the box and try again. If the code was 69, which is the power button for the remote, the box is now activated, and it starts to see if the IR beam, which is what I'm using to detect when the box is open, has been broken. If it's not broken, then it continues through this loop until it is broken. And now that the box is both activated and the beam is broken, the deterrents turn on. When my tick variable, so this on and off every second variable, is 0, then the motor is off and the buzzer is on. When the tick variable is 1, the motor is on, the buzzer is off, and those alternate back and forth until you get to the deactivate state in the code. So it just continues through this loop until it is deactivated. If we look at some of the code here, here's the code for that time ticking using the built-in millis function, and some if statements to see when a second has elapsed. The activation, as I said, was with the IR remote, so I reused some of the code from previous projects with just making it so that I can activate and deactivate the box with 2 separate buttons. The code right here is for my deterrents. So as I said, when that tick variable is 1, the motor is spinning, and when it's 0, the motor stops, and the buzzer is the opposite of the motor, so it's turned off when the motor is spinning and turned on when the motor is stopped. And then the final piece of important code that I have is the check to see if the box is open. This was written partially using the code that was given in the documentation for the IR beam brake sensor that I used. These LED states right here are to help with debugging, and down here is just checking to see if that sensor state is true or false for the IR beam brake, and depending on which way it is, it's either the beam is broken or not broken. My wiring diagram here, start up here with the beam brake. You have a IR LED and an IR receiver. When the IR receiver stops receiving it, it sends a data signal. Here we have the IR receiver for the remote for activating and deactivating. The buzzer is right here, fairly simple for that one. And then the motor, using the same wiring that we used for a previous previous project in this class. So that's my wiring for it. And then I'll look at the actual box. You can see the Arduino in the middle here. Wires going out to my beam brake sensors. This one got a little cut off there. And my IR remote sensor right there. And then the deterrents over on this side, the motor with the offset weight so that it vibrates, and the buzzer right here set up on this little secondary breadboard. Zoomed in picture here if you want a little bit of a closer look.